All right, welcome back to another episode of Triple Play Fantasy Behind the Analyst series. I am Zach at FF Chalupa Batman, and today I am joined by one of the newest writers of Fantasy Pros, also part of Club Fantasy, known for DFS and Chill, the DFS queen herself. We got Kyra. How's it going, Kyra?
What's going on, Zach? I'm good. I'm excited to do this with you here tonight. I know it's a long time coming, so I hope it was well worth the wait.
Always, yeah. And for those of you who haven't been watching the episodes yet, we are not going to be talking about Kira's greatest fantasy takes coming up for her sleepers for 2022, even her DFS picks for whenever. And I'm sure all those are wonderful takes, but really we want to focus on the fantasy analyst and behind the fantasy analyst. What we're going beyond that, talking about more about kind of what got you here and more along those lines. So hopefully you're ready to have some fun.
This
We're going
time,
to
I
kick
hope
it off.
I hope everyone's ready to know about me. I've got a weird little life.
Uh, that's what this show is all about. We're
Yeah.
excited to talk with you. So we'll start off with an easy one. Did you play any sports growing up?
Okay, so I did play sports literally from the moment that I pretty much could pick up a baseball bat or throw a ball or anything like that. My family loves sports. My uncle actually has season tickets to the Philadelphia Eagles, which is what got me into being such a huge football fan, huge Philadelphia Eagle fan in general. And from the moment that I could play anything, because sports was always on my TV, it's what I've seen all the time. I played t-ball when I was 4. You're supposed to start when you're 5 or something like that. They got me in early because I begged so bad. But mostly throughout like my adult life, I played hockey. Since girls couldn't play football, I know now it's like a bigger deal for girls to be like more involved. They started playing football. It's actually more common, but back when I was growing up, we didn't have that. Like the coolest thing I could do is watch football and root for a football team. As badly as, I wish I could have played, and I'm super jealous that girls get that opportunity now. I guess this is like the closest thing I could do to get to being able to still play is just take the nerdy side of it and dissect it, because when I love something, I can't just love it in a small dose. It has to be, just engulf myself in football. So that's what really got me started into fantasy football. But yeah, mostly a hockey player my whole entire life. I played field hockey, street hockey, ice hockey, any kind of hockey. Anything that was physical was fun to me. So hockey it is.
What position did you play in hockey?
So in field hockey, I was a goalie. Whenever I played ice hockey, I played as like a mid, a wing, something like that. And in street hockey, I was a goalie. I was only I was only not a goalie in ice hockey because at the time it was just so damn expensive to play ice hockey. My school didn't have a team or anything like that, so I had to play with the travel league. And when I played with the travel league, that was expensive to play alone. And my mom and dad were like, hey, she, at the end of the day, she is a female, so we don't have to go this hard with this. So why don't you just play as a player, keep it like that? And I was good at it, so I just let it be that.
Fair enough. And you mentioned
Mhm.
before this kind of led to your passion of sports, and it sounds like the Eagles to pursue fantasy football. So is that what got you into it? Was just trying something new with fantasy football?
I think that I loved football so much. I love the Eagles. Oh, sorry, sorry about that.
We're
My
dog friendly. All good.
yeah, but, he had a talk for me. He's just as vocal as I am. No, my mom's washer broke, so she's doing laundry at my house, and he thinks someone's robbing us. But what was the question again? I'm so sorry.
So your passion for sports, it sounds like that led you into fantasy football and fantasy sports in general.
Yeah, so I think that it was cool to watch sports, and I think every time that the thing about like with football for me was whenever I played something, I always would watch the players with it. And I think that with football, since I couldn't play, the other cool way to get involved was to coach my own fantasy, well, not coach, but like have my own fantasy football team and find my own skill with that to be good with that. So I think that it got popular when I was probably in high school. It started coming out. Everyone played on ESPN only. I don't know if Yahoo even had a thing at the time or something like that, like back in the day. Um, and I got involved with it with a bunch of people from work, and it was fun. It was competitive to be able to, talk shit amongst them all the time. And, I sucked badly when I first started playing fantasy football. All I really knew was the Philadelphia Eagles. I needed to learn people. And I think from feeling like, okay, I can't let all these dudes just continually kick my ass and give me their money, like give my money away to them for free every single season. So I got a little more invested in wanting to learn how do I beat them, and that led to me doing my own research. That led to me doing my own things and my own strategies. And I found other analysts that, I was like, wow, I sit here and put in just as much effort as them, and they're giving me the same advice that I could give back. So it eventually just led to me being like, hey, you know what? You're passionate about this. You love this. You're good at it. So why don't you do something about it? Why don't you try to be somebody with it?
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then there's really no good way to segue into this. We were talking off camera before, so if
Yeah.
you're okay with discussing it, yeah, go into as much or as little detail as you want. But
Mhm.
do you want to talk about how sustaining a brain hemorrhage several years ago, how that impacted your life, and then kind of how it impacted you in fantasy football?
Yeah, so that was pretty major, and I think it's the one thing that like almost next to nobody really knows about me unless you grew up around me or something like that. So people in the fantasy football community don't really know that like 5 6 years ago now, I was in a car accident and I sustained a brain hemorrhage, and from that, I had to learn how to talk appropriately again. I used to talk with a slur, which gave me like immense social anxiety. I never wanted to talk to anybody because I would talk really slow and like careful, and like it's a really weird thing. But I had to go through like almost like a speech therapy to do that again. I had to learn how to walk appropriately up and down stairs again. I actually have short-term memory loss, which greatly affects me when I do stuff with football. Just because you asked me a question a second ago and I literally forgot it because something small distracted me and I can't pick back up and remember. So when I'm podcasting, when I'm doing all that, I have so many notes in front of me. I write down stuff that I want to remember all the time. Even when I'm watching a game, I'm sitting there in my iPhone. There's so many notes of just nothingness in there because I'm like, I need to remember this because I know if I don't write this down, I'm never remembering this. So it's actually kind of crazy that I could talk football like I do because realistically, my brain works against me all the time. And I feel like the Rain Man of football. I could sit here and tell you, crazy statistics throughout the week of what happened during games. But if you ask me what I did this morning or like, what'd you eat for lunch, it would take me a second to do that. So I don't know, maybe by the grace of God, like for some reason, it just kept my football memory pretty good. But it seems to stick for me in doing that. But it's definitely something hard to overcome. I remember like when I was starting out, just starting to do my articles and everything like that. I was super nervous to commit to doing fantasy football and to writing because I actually, when I had my brain hemorrhage, I also had a ton of problems with my vision. My eyes went really bad. They went from 20/20 to I have a problem where they don't focus at the same time. So reading and writing and being on a computer is extremely strenuous. Sometimes my eyes hurt so bad that I can't even bear to look at lighting, like lights in a screen. So when I first started out, that's why I thanked Club Fantasy so much for dealing with me. I would say, they understood like when I'd be like, I just worked a full shift at work. I don't know if I could get this article out in a timely manner. I feel really bad, but my eyes are just jacked right now. There's no way that I could look at a computer screen. And I've gotten really good at it. Now I figured out like my own schedule where I don't have those problems and things like that. But in the beginning, they really worked with me in finding what worked for me, and they never got upset with me. They never got mad at me. They were always understanding, like, hey, we don't know anything about that. So if that's something that's hard for you, then we get it. We're cool. We're gonna help you through it. And by them doing that, it built my confidence that hey, you can still do this. Like you just have to find. I've always had to find a different way to make things work, and it's always worked out. So as bad as crazy as it sounds to be like, hey, this girl had a brain bleed. You know what I mean? It's terrible when I say it, but it really, there's silver lining to all of that happening. I just found other ways to make things work.
No, I appreciate you sharing that because I mean, honestly, until we talked about it, I had no idea. And you put
Yeah,
out quality content. You do a great job. So I mean, I don't think anybody would really know again unless you share it. So I appreciate
yeah.
you sharing it on
Even
this interview.
when I was in Canton, I felt really bad. So when I went to the Fantasy Football Expo, another thing that, with my with my memory and with like those problems, like I felt so bad when someone would introduce themselves to me and they'd be like, "Hey, I talked to you on Twitter. I do something." I'm like, unless we converse a lot, if it was like a one-time thing, or I followed you a while ago, or you followed me recently, I just might not remember. And it's not because you're not memorable. Like, I always tell people, please don't think you're not memorable because I don't remember you. It's literally my brain working against me. And I felt really bad when I would introduce myself. Like, it was just awful for me to have to be like, yeah, but I'm getting much better with it as the years go by.
Oh, that's awesome. I would love to go to the Fantasy Football Expo sometime, but I would assume name tags would be a requirement just in general.
We do have them. Yes,
Perfect.
they're on there, but people need to put like their Twitter handle. I feel like
Twitter handle, maybe your Avi at the time.
Yeah, honestly, I need your small picture of what you look like on there, because some people don't even have a picture either, so that makes it even harder.
Right.
And they would just be like, "Hello, my name is Kyra." Well, I need you to put, "Hello, my name is FantasyFFL Kyra," or else I might have a hard time.
Yeah, and it's always in August, so shout out to Scott Fishbowl, but that's when everyone's has all their Avies too for Scott Fishbowl. So no one really has pictures going on right now. So you're like, I
yeah,
know who you are.
It switches over. Really jacks me the hell up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So your big thing is DFS. At least for me, that's what I feel like you're known for, and that's how I know you the best. So you crushed it in 2021. If no one's, hopefully everyone's paying attention. But you had a great 2021 season for DFS. So what led you to focus on DFS for fantasy football creation? Because that's not like, it's popular, but it's probably not the most popular.
No, and it's not, it sucks that it's not the most popular, but I think that's really just because, the whole country hasn't legalized gambling. So not everybody could get in on the DFS fund. And I think that, our audience is a little bit smaller now until, everyone does legalize sports gambling. But honestly, I said when I announced that I was going to be working with the Fantasy Pros, that initially, when Club Fantasy approached me, I really like, my bread and butter and things that I love is redraft and dynasty. Like, those were the two things that I wanted to write about. That's what I wanted to get into. And they're like, well, we need somebody for DFS. And I'm like, all right. I played DFS and stuff like that, but it wasn't like my favorite thing or what I was like the best at or something, or in my opinion at that time. So when they asked me to do that, I'm like, I really got to nail this. I really got to start like looking into what makes a great DFS player, what it takes to, and I'll tell you what, it takes a lot of hours and it takes a lot of research and analytics, and it takes, looking up ownerships, and there's so many things about DFS that goes into it, much more than honestly in redraft and dynasty, to be able to figure out some really good value plays and great plays for the week on. So really, it's all because of opportunity. Like, if Club Fantasy never asked me to do DFS, I don't know that I ever even would have got into it. But because of them, it was such a big deal to me that I did, because not a lot of women are talking about DFS. That's one thing. And not a lot of people really are in general, just because it isn't the most popular part of fantasy football, given its legalization. But because of that, that's how Fantasy Pros found me. That's what made them ask me, hey, do you want to go on this podcast with Joe Pisapia? And because of that opportunity, they're like, hey, do you want to write for us? So I thought that was extremely cool, and I'm super thankful for DFS. And if I have to be known as the DFS queen for forever, I am totally cool with that.
That's awesome. But honestly, I mean, I have very little DFS experience, but I feel like it's got to be a lot of pressure too as an analyst with redraft or dynasty. I mean, I can throw out whatever take I want, and like, oh well, it was good for a week, it didn't hit. Now, sorry about that. But like with DFS, like, you have to be on point every week. I mean, you're literally putting money on the line.
Right. It almost it reminds me, of course, this happened. My dog hit the thing again. Hold on, I'll fix this.
No worries.
So it kind of me back to almost like when from being a goalie back in the day. So when you're a goalie in sports, you have like one job to do, almost like what a kicker has in football. You miss a kick, you miss a goal, you're the asshole. Like, you, all the pressure's on you. You had one job and you didn't do it. So I think that honestly mentally prepares me for DFS, because I only make so many choices, and when they don't hit, they totally flop. It looks bad. It's like, wow, why do I even listen to you? Like, you're terrible. But when you get them right, you look fantastic, and you can't get everything right. It's almost, being a fantasy analyst is like predicting the weather. It's like a weatherman, I'd say they're definitely more wrong, way more than us. There's some more skill to it, I guess. But it's definitely definitely a lot more pressure in DFS than it is in, redraft or something. People are a lot more forgiving.
That's great. It makes a lot of sense. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you're going into your third year of creating content, right?
Yes, this will be my third year.
Awesome.
I said, I always make the reference. First year I was a rookie. Second year I was looking for my breakout. And then now I'm hoping I take a third-year leap. That's the goal. I don't know what I'm going to come up with for the fourth year, but I'll come up with something.
So it feels like the fantasy sports space is just growing rapidly, which I think is great. I think it's a lot of diverse content. I mean, you have people on TikTok now giving fantasy advice, which some of it's great, some of it I would question. But hey, to each their own, and whatever you want to put out there is great. But do you have any advice for someone who maybe is thinking about getting into the fantasy space or just got in, as someone you've been very successful, but you're still pretty new to it yourself?
Right.
So any advice?
No, I have a lot of advice actually for them, because I was so timid about getting myself started. And honestly, I think, I said a lot of it is like, you don't just log on one day and, the next morning you have even 100 followers. It's not like you could have the best takes, you could write the best articles, you could really just give your absolute all for a year and you're going to do it for free. I'm going to let you know that right now, that you're going to do so much content and things for free that you're like, why am I doing this? For who? For what? I'm not even being compensated. I'm putting in all these hours. I'm putting in all this work, and I can't even get a job out of this. I can't get 1,000 followers. I can't get anyone to pay attention to me. And you'd be so surprised, like all those nights where you put in all that work and effort, all those just thankless things that you do, someone's watching you. Someone's, looking at that. And, how do we trust you in knowing that you're good at what you do unless you put information out there for us? You're not going to get a full-time job your first year doing it, unless you're one of the luckiest people on planet Earth. I was discouraged so many times. I'd be so tired coming home from work and having to finish Kyra's cash grabs, and I'd be like, why do I even do this? And I'm like, who's reading this? Who's looking at this? And then the next day I get a DM from someone that's like, oh my God, dude, you just won me $3,000 in this tournament because I picked this guy. I read your article, and, something would always come back and make it so gratifying and awesome. And I always thought, I had a lot of people that were supportive of me on Twitter, but not necessarily in my real life. Like, there would be people who are like, dude, who do you think you are? Matthew Berry? Like, why should I listen to you? Why should you have like 200 followers? No one reads your article. No one watches your podcast. Like, I'd have people that just were really discouraging. I think because they're intimidated also. You have to realize, like, when you put yourself out there, people have an opinion and they'll use it, whether it's good or bad. Not everyone's a good person and not everyone's supportive. And I think it's important that you just stick to what you believe in yourself, keep working, because somebody's going to notice it and it's going to pay off and it's all going to make sense someday. But you can't quit while it's hard, because it's just, you're never going to get anywhere if you don't keep going. You just want to stay the route, trust the process, keep going, just do it. And I promise you that you will get somewhere with doing so. I mean, it took me 2 years to really get to where I want to be at. And that was 2 years of free work and just nothingness, like I went from under 1,000 followers. I probably had like 500 if I was lucky the first year that I did it. And now we're just climbing from 3,500. It just keeps growing. And, I've got to talk to some of the biggest names in football. So you'd be surprised how far you can come with what you accomplish.
No, that's great advice. I know, I mean, even speaking for myself, like I just started last year. So we're going on close to about 9 months now, and you feel really vulnerable putting out your content.
God, yeah.
I mean, maybe nobody reads it or listens, but even if one person does, I mean, all of our goals are to help people win, and we know we're not going to be right 100% of the time, but you're putting your name to something. You're hey, I did all this research. I did or hopefully you did the research.
Yeah,
I
you
put in
gotta,
the time.
that's another thing. Please do the work, because
Yeah.
you can't just be out there, making wild guesses that you think someone's. Give them a reason, give people a reason to trust you when you're talking. Be like, hey, these are who I like this week, and this is why. This is the process of that I had of why I want to pick these players. And I think that people can trust you by saying, hey, they really put in the work to do it. But yeah, that's the thing. Even if, I started out, my article got less than 100 people looking at it, and then it turned into a couple hundred to almost 1,000 people looking at, you know what I mean? So you don't, it's just like anything. You don't become an overnight celebrity. You don't become an overnight anything, so the CEO of a company didn't just become the boss one day, unless they were someone rich and they got lucky. But other than that, if you're a self-made person, it takes work, and it's always going to take work, but it's worth it.
No, I appreciate all that advice. Hopefully, even if that helps one person, I mean, that's what we're here for.
For sure.
So it's
I would have
great,
liked someone to tell me that, so
right? So hopefully, someone out there is listening, and hey, just
yeah,
give it a try. Even if you're just writing for yourself or making a video for yourself, and just put it out there, even for, like you said, for free, for no company. I mean, just have fun with it.
yeah.
See
And we
what it
all
takes.
know how nerve-wracking it is to, put our opinion out there, because it is fantasy football and you don't know if you're right until after Sunday. And so you put those your hard work out there, and if you see it, flop, which hey, it's going to sometimes, you're not going to be 100 for 100 every time. You're going to be wrong a lot. That's going to happen. It's a game of a lot of versatility, a lot of variables in that game. Things could happen. People get hurt. Things change. Weather matters sometimes. It's schemes change. Like, you're not always going to be right, but don't let that discourage you. Just look back, see what you did wrong, why you got it wrong, and correct it next time, and just keep coming back for more.
Perfect. And then, so I have some rapid fire questions for you
Yeah,
if
let's
you're
hit it.
game for it.
Yeah.
All right. So you can, if you want to do a one word answer, that's fine. If you want to give some context to help state your case, that's fine too.
Sure.
I'm not gonna lie, some of these are controversial.
I saw them. They are a little bit controversial. Yeah.
Thank you, Twitter.
I might
But
be passionate about one of them.
hey, all the passion. Just know that no matter what, as people watch this, no matter what you say, someone's going to agree with you, and someone will absolutely disagree with you. So,
Oh yeah, they're those kind of questions.
no pressure. So the the first one: do you pour cereal or milk first in the bowl?
Okay, so I definitely pour my cereal then milk, because I don't know. I thought that everyone did that. I think that's crazy. I don't know. I don't know about you. I don't know if you're the same way or not, but I feel like that's just standard. That's how, like, if it just feels wrong to pour the milk first. If there was a
Yeah,
commercial, I feel like they're pouring the cereal and then putting milk on it.
not
And
to put my own.
I don't want it soggy either. That's important.
No worries. Not to put my own spin on it because, like I said, we want to be about you. But yeah, it is definitely cereal first. But this is a shout out to Cooter Doodle for starting this whole controversy, and it's been a lot of fun to watch people just give their takes.
Do we know what the ratio is? Is like, do most people pour cereal first? I would hope.
I have not
Or
seen
am
a
I a
poll.
monster?
I have to believe cereal has to be the majority, but I feel like the milk first people are very proud and loud in a good way. So you just might hear about it more,
Yeah, people are proud to be different. I know it.
and that's okay. We're okay with that. So the
I'll
next
try it
one,
tomorrow morning to see how I really feel. Like, I'll just
there
do
we
it
go.
first and be like, you know what? It actually worked better for me.
Could be groundbreaking.
Yeah.
The next one is a hot dog a sandwich.
Um, no, only because I would say, if someone's like, "Hey, will you make me a sandwich?" They're not gonna be like, "Well, do you want turkey or a hot dog?" You know what I mean? So I'll say that hot dog isn't a sandwich, just because I wouldn't classify it as a sandwich in that way. But I know if we're looking at a menu at a restaurant, it might be under sandwiches.
Right. A lot of controversy in the club fantasy
Oh.
chat group. It's been a
Over
fun
the
one.
hot dog thing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you
Yep.
feel about it?
I don't want to give my take. I think it's whatever you want it to be. Is
It's
that
unique.
yeah, you whatever makes you happy with that hot dog, you go for it. Should toilet paper hang over or under the roll?
All right, so this is one that, like, I personally never ever cared about in my whole entire life. I didn't really even know this was a controversial thing. I just put it on however I put it on at one point, until I actually dated somebody that, like, was like, why the hell do you put it on like that? Like, that's not how it's supposed to go. And I was like, well, which way is it supposed to go? What is everyone doing? And I had no idea this whole time that when people come over, they're judging my toilet paper roll. And apparently the appropriate way is for it to be over, I guess.
I believe that is more popular, but there are plenty of people that do like it
That
under.
don't care. Yeah. So I'm in the category of I don't care. But ever since I felt judged by it, I put it over.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Is pineapple an acceptable pizza topping?
Okay, no, hell no. So, where I live, I'm from Northeast PA, and a lot of where I'm from is very pizza competitive. Like, we're close to New York in a way, and New York thinks they have the best pizza on planet Earth, and I get it. But uh, in my area, if you're putting pineapple on pizza, that's just like we're judging you. That's not cool. I mean, I don't think that it tastes bad. I've had Hawaiian pizza and it's pretty good, but it's not my first choice. It would be like my absolute last choice, and it's because someone else ordered it, and I'm just like, why the hell did you do that? But whatever, I'm hungry, kind of a thing. But yeah, I'm not a fan of pineapple pizza.
Fair enough. And
Don't
then
do not think it's a good idea.
last question. You are stuck on an island, but you are able to listen to music. What is the one album you would choose to listen to on that island?
Okay, so I had a hard time when I thought about this because I wanted to pick College Dropout from Kanye West, but like honestly, I like so much early Kanye in general that if I could just get a list of his albums up until like I'll even take Life of Pablo. Everything after that I really didn't love, but I'm a big Kanye fan. That might lose me some followers because I know he is like America's, what did he call himself once upon a time? He's like America's most unwanted or something like that. But all of his music early on was like how to help build. He said, if you're a fan of Kanye, you're a fan of yourself, because that means that you listen, and that helps build your self-esteem. So I think if I was on an island, and I needed some albums for some self-esteem to get myself the hell off of there or something, I could listen to some Kanye and muster up the courage to get out.
Great choice. Great choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Late Registration is up there for me too.
Yeah, Late Registration really. I mean, so many of his first couple ones there were just I could play them all the way through, and they're just so good. So
There you go. Well, that was my last rapid fire question. Hopefully, it wasn't too rough for you there. But like I said,
no,
I promise you, people are watching this right now, like freaking out because they agree with you, or they're freaking out because they absolutely disagree with you.
right? They want to say something to like cut me off and be like, "Bitch, pineapple does belong on pizza. It's the most delicious thing. It's my favorite food." But a lot of the world. So if I go anywhere out of Pennsylvania or out of New York or out of the area, I can't find good pizza. Like good pizza is hard to find. Where are you from, Zach?
I'm from Maryland. I live down in
You're from
Florida
Maryland,
now.
okay. So for us, like pizza's like number one food group. Like we love pizza up here because we have so much good pizza. So maybe the rest of the country needs pineapple on their pizza to make it taste better. But if you're somewhere where pizza is authentically good, I need to keep fruit off of it. All the Italian pizza companies in the area here would just like be rolling over, but they'll throw it on there for you, I guess.
Hey, whatever makes the business right.
Yeah, whatever makes people happy. I'm all for the people. If you want pineapple on your pizza, that's fine, but just don't put it on mine.
There you go. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to join us and sharing so much about yourself. I hope everyone enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about behind the DFS queen. So can you just share with everyone where they can find you and your work?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at my handle here, fantasy with a PH, fantasy FF Kira on Twitter. I don't really do social medias as far as like Instagram or Facebook is really just more of my personal life. If you want to catch me with football, it's going to be on Twitter. Also, you can find my work on Club Fantasy. We do DFS and chill. Right now, it's going to be every Saturday because of playoffs, but in season, that's every Sunday, where we just go over the main slate and we'll talk about all the good plays that you want to have and people you want to pick out. This upcoming season, I'm going to be working with Fantasy Pros, so you'll be able to find my work on there. I think I start in March, possibly. Yeah. So sometime in March, you'll see some of my articles on there. And of course, I'll be sharing them through Twitter. I'm really excited about that. And hopefully we can still continue, depending on how busy I am over at Fantasy Pros. I'm hoping to keep up with Kira's cash grabs. And you'll find that over on ClubFantasyFFL.com as well.
Awesome. And for all of you guys either listening or watching, either watching this on the Triple Play Fantasy YouTube channel or you're listening to this on the Triple Play Fantasy podcast channel, make sure you subscribe to either one or both. We have a lot of great content coming out this offseason and going into the season. I don't want you to miss that. So again, I'm Zach at FF Chalupa Batman. Thank you again, Kyra. Everyone,
thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I was so excited to do this, and I'm happy that I did. So thanks for having me.
Awesome. Glad to hear it.